Welcome to Learned and Go-Go, the podcast. I'm your host, Sydnee A., and I am also the author of Everything I Need to Know, I Learned in Go-Go, How a Preacher's Daughter Pole Danced Her Way to Finding Her True Self. I want to welcome you to episode 11. I am flying solo tonight. It's just a mini-sode, but I wanted to make sure that before Women's History Month ended, I was able to highlight a couple last badass women before the end of the month. And full disclosure here, this is actually take 2 of this episode. I was heated earlier. I came on, I got 25 minutes into the mini-sode, and I looked down and I saw that my microphone was muted and none of it recorded. And I was pissed, to put it mildly. So I decided to go decompress a little bit. I ate dinner. I dyed Easter eggs with my daughter, which was so much fun. That completely changed my mood. And so now I am back to do it again. So maybe this one will be even better, than the first take. But it's been a crazy week. I know a lot of people are going through it right now, and I don't know if it's something in the universe, if it's just the time of year. We've had a lot of rain around here, and that can put everybody in a mood. For me personally, I've been dealing with insomnia, and it's terrible. And I don't understand it, because I can go to sleep no problem. If I sat here for 5 seconds without talking, I'd probably be asleep, because that's how tired I am. But I don't stay asleep, and I don't understand what's happening, because it's always around 1 a.m. I wake up, I lay there till sometimes 1:45, sometimes I lay there till like 3, and then I'm up again at like 4, and I just lay there. And sometimes I can go back to sleep, and sometimes I don't, but it is exhausting and it's frustrating, and I don't know what to do. I can't take melatonin. I tried that once, and 1 milligram, I could not function the next day. So I obviously have a sensitivity to that. But it's the same thing like ZQL has. I looked it up earlier. It's like, starts with a D, big word. I took that and I still woke up at 1. So I don't know how to stay asleep. Going to sleep is no problem. So if you have any suggestions, I would really, really appreciate it. I've tried meditation. I've tried box breathing. I don't know how to stay asleep. And now, granted, I do have dogs that share the bed, and sometimes they wake me up, but this is a consistently nightly thing at the same time. So it's obviously something in my brain cycle that's broken. So I need to figure out how to fix that. But yeah, like I said, I know a lot of us are dealing with, I don't know if it's the end of seasonal depression or if it's just a stressful time. But in my book, I talk about how life works kind of like a pendulum. And when you swing it to one direction, that's where all of the happiness and the cool stuff and the exciting parts of your life live. And then it swings over to the other side, and that's where the hard work and the tough times, the parts that make you upset or depressed, all of that lives there. Because it seems like we go in cycles where it's either really high highs or really low lows, because that's your pendulum swinging back and forth. And some people do choose to live in the middle. So like where the pendulum's hanging, it doesn't really swing too far into the happy part, but it doesn't swing too far into the sad part. So while you're not ever really feeling intense negativity, you're also not getting that intense positivity, because you're just kind of hanging in the middle. So I don't know about you, but I love really exciting, wonderful, that like endorphin rush. And to get that, sometimes you're going to go through seasons of hard work and doubt, and it takes a little bit to get through it, but the pendulum's going to swing back. It always does. It just takes some time. And I kind of find comfort in that, like when I have weeks like this week where I am just beat down and I'm like, it's going to swing back. It'll be okay. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am. I did have an exciting Tuesday, and it was really super cool. In my area, Delco the movie is filming, and my friend Leah Ciboli is the producer. So she got a couple friends of mine and I to be able to be extras in the movie, which was really a whole lot of fun. Because Brian O'Halloran was there. He plays Dante in Clerks, and he's one of the characters. I'm not going to spoil it because you have to see the movie. But shout out to my husband, Dave, because he worked his ass off doing the catering for the filming of the movie, like not just Tuesday, but several times. So very, very grateful. So he represented our deli Rollin in Brookhaven, so definitely check them out too if you're in the area. Best food ever. And so that was a really fun, exciting day. But when I was done that, I kind of just felt like I crashed because it was like running on adrenaline, and I love the endorphins, but then it was like I hit the wall. But then I'm up at 1, so it's all good. You know, this is just a season, and the pendulum will swing back. Like I said, things will get better. And I just appreciate that I am waking up, you know, at all. Because some people don't have that every day. You know, like they have one day, it just doesn't happen anymore. So I'm glad to still be here. And even if I'm tired, I'm here. So grateful, and always, always take the time for gratitude. So that being said, I'm going to move on to our Women's History Month peoples that we're going to talk about. And this first one, I thought about several times during the month when we were talking about this, and didn't get to her until today. And that's Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So she's fondly known as RBG, and she was a towering figure in American legal history, renowned for her groundbreaking work in championing, my mouth doesn't work, gender equality and civil rights. So this is just a little breakdown of who she was, because I think most of us recognize the name, but we don't know how she got to be on the Supreme Court, like her beginnings and all. So she was born on March 15th, March babies, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York. And she rose to prominence as one of the most influential figures in American law. Her journey from young law student fighting against gender discrimination to becoming the second woman ever appointed to the United States Supreme Court is a testament to her resilience, intellect, and unwavering commitment to justice. Her upbringing was in a working-class family, and it instilled in her a strong sense of justice and equality. Despite facing societal barriers due to her gender, she excelled academically and earned a scholarship to attend Cornell University, where she graduated at the top of her class. Later, she pursued her legal education at Harvard Law School, go girl, going to Harvard, where she encountered firsthand the challenges of being one of the few women in a predominantly male environment. So we can see how her upbringing and the course that she took planted those seeds for her to continue to fight for gender equality. It was definitely brought on by the challenges that she faced growing up and following her path to be a lawyer initially and then to continue on. She eventually transferred to Columbia Law School, where she graduated tied for first in her class. After completing law school, she faced discrimination in her job search, with many law firms refusing to hire her because of her gender. Undeterred, she embarked on a career in academia and advocacy, focusing on gender equality issues. In the 1970s, she co-founded the Women's Right Project at the American Civil Liberties Union, or the ACLU, where she litigated numerous cases challenging laws that discriminated on the basis of sex. Her strategic litigation strategy aimed at dismantling gender-based stereotypes and securing legal protections for women. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter appointed Ginsburg to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit, where she served with distinction for 13 years. In 1993, President Bill Clinton nominated her to the Supreme Court. 93 was a good year. That's when I graduated from high school, making her the second woman ever to serve on the nation's highest court. Throughout her tenure on the Supreme Court, Ginsburg emerged as a voice for the marginalized and disenfranchised, advocating for gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, voting rights, and reproductive rights. Ginsburg's opinions and dissents on the Supreme Court reflected her unwavering commitment to justice and equality in cases such as the United States versus Virginia in 1996. And I had to look that up. I was not familiar with what that case was about. So basically, the court found that the Virginia Military Institute's policy of only admitting and serving males was unconstitutional. And I think about that because I am so grateful to everyone who serves in the military because I couldn't do it. There's no way. And I appreciate every person who signs up to fight for our country and keep us all safe and free. So if a woman wanted to do that, I don't see why they are like, you can't, you're a woman. You know, I think Rosie the Riveter era taught us everything that women can do. Like, there's no reason why you should just make a blanket thing of no women, because there's plenty of men who can't pass the physical exam too. It's whoever can meet the qualifications for the job should be able to get it, regardless of what may or may not be between your legs. You know, that's just my opinion. So another case was Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. So that one I also looked up, and damn it, I should have looked up her first name again between takes for this. Anyway, Ms. Ledbetter, because I can't remember her first name, sued Goodyear because someone left her an anonymous letter informing her of the difference in pay between what she made and her male coworkers, because it was a huge difference in pay. And they were doing the same job. And in a lot of cases, she had seniority over them and was still making way less. So the case was dismissed even when it went up to the Supreme Court, because the way that it was worded was that you only had 180 days from the first paycheck that was unbalanced, you know, like your first check that you got that wasn't what it should have been. You only had 180 days from then to seek out a lawsuit. So even though they couldn't overturn that ruling, they changed the law that it's 180 days past the last pay disparity now, not the first, that you have to bring it to court and fight to get your money. Because she was initially rewarded her back pay and you know, like to balance the scales. And then they took it all the way up to the Supreme Court and they were like, no, because of this 180-day thing. So now they changed the law to make it more fair that you have a chance to actually stand up for yourself. So she also authored opinions that expanded the constitutional protections against gender discrimination. Her powerful dissents in cases such as Shelby County versus Holder and Burwell versus Hobby Lobby. That one was in 2014. That wasn't, oh my God, that was 10 years ago. Doesn't 2014 seem not 10 years ago? Time is flying. But they provided a moral compass and laid the groundwork for future legal challenges. Beyond her judicial work, Ginsburg became a cultural icon, affectionately dubbed the notorious RBG. She was the subject of many SNL skits with Kate McKinnon playing her. And I saw interviews where she was really like tickled by the way that they were representing her, and she enjoyed seeing herself as that character. So I like that she had a sense of humor too. Her sharp intellect, tireless work ethic, and unapologetic feminism inspired generations of lawyers, activists, and ordinary citizens. Ginsburg's legacy extends far beyond her legal opinions. It is a testament to the power of perseverance, principle, and passion in the pursuit of justice. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life and career exemplified the transformative power of the law in advancing justice and equality. From her early days as a pioneering litigator to her historic tenure on the Supreme Court, Ginsburg's impact on the American society is immeasurable. As we reflect on her legacy, we are reminded of the enduring importance of championing, God, I can't say that word tonight, championing equality, protecting civil rights, and upholding the rule of law. So she will always be remembered as a trailblazer, a visionary, and a tireless advocate for justice. I believe she passed away in 2020. I didn't write that down, but that sounds right because I feel like, let me see here. I can look it up real quick. Yep, September 18th, 2020, she was 87. So again, that doesn't seem like it was 4 years ago already, 3.5. That went by really fast, but whether you agree with her fights or not, like, I really believe the Supreme Court should be half and half. Like, sure, we're supposed to be a multi-party system. We all know we're a two-party system, so it should be represented equally on both sides. And, I think that I agree with her on everything that she fought for, but that's just my opinion. So whether you agree with that or not, she did make ways for upcoming women, the women that came up after her, to go through those situations, in a more fair way, as far as like the hiring process, or, when you go to school and you're the only woman in there and they're discriminating against you just because you're a woman. Like, she's made strides in those areas. So that is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the notorious RBG. And then up next is our last lady of Women's History Month. And this is someone who I got several messages reaching out for me to cover. And I have to admit, I knew the name. I was pretty sure she was an actress, but that was pretty much all I knew. I needed to educate myself. So I enjoyed learning about her. And her name is Hedy Lamarr. Now, Hedy Lamarr's name is synonymous with glamour and elegance in the realm of classic Hollywood cinema. However, her impact transcends the boundaries of the entertainment industry. So she's not just an actress. Wait till you see, because I was actually very surprised. She was born Hedwig Eva Maria Keisler, 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 in Austria in 1914. She rose to fame as an actress in the 1930s and 1940s, captivating audiences with her beauty and talent. Yet, beneath the veneer of stardom lay a brilliant mind driven by curiosity and innovation. Hedy Lamarr's journey began in Vienna, where she was born to a prosperous Jewish family. Her father was a bank director and a curious man who encouraged her to be inquisitive about the world around her. At age 5, she could be found taking her music box apart and reassembling it to figure out how it worked. This made me smile because I have vivid memories of being little and taking apart one of those cassette players. They were like a black rectangle. Every classroom had one. But my dad had because I liked taking it apart to see how it worked, but I didn't know how to put it back together. So where Hedy Lamarr was learning how to be inventive, I was just breaking cassette players. Sorry, Dad. But I was fascinated with what was inside and like seeing all of the mechanics, what made it work. So that made me smile because I'm like, okay, music box probably was the equivalent in 1919 to my cassette player in like 1979, 1980. So that's pretty cool. Her mother was a concert pianist and introduced her to the arts. Lamarr's brilliant mind was ignored, however, and her beauty took center stage when she was discovered by director Max Reinhardt at age 16. She studied acting with Reinhardt in Berlin and was in her first small film role by 1930 in a German film called, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but the translation is Money on the Street. However, it wasn't until 1932 that Lamarr gained name recognition as an actress for her role in the controversial film Ecstasy, where she garnered attention for her daring and sensuality. In 1933, she married Fritz Mandel, but realized quickly that staying married to him would mean she would never be able to continue pursuing her career as an actress. Fritz treated her like a doll, and according to womenshistory.org, quote, she was incredibly unhappy as she was forced to play host and smile on demand amongst Mandel's friends and scandalous business partners, some of whom were associated with the Nazi Party. She left the marriage in 1937, but took with her the knowledge she had gained from her dinner table conversation over wartime weaponry. While in London, she was introduced to Louis B. Mayer of the famed MGM Studios. Lamar's transition to Hollywood marked the beginning of her iconic status, with memorable roles in films like Algiers in 1938 and Samson and Delilah in 1949, but her passion was science and invention. She and Louis dated, but she was more interested in his desire for innovation. He introduced her to Howard Hughes, who was a businessman and pilot. Hughes fueled her passion for innovation by buying her a small set of equipment she could use between sets. That makes me so happy, like picturing her out on the set, doing her movie stuff, like being all glamorous and then going back into her trailer and inventing shit with her little set of equipment that Howard Hughes bought her. Like, that's really cool. His interest lay in finding a way to make faster planes that he could sell to the U.S. military. He took her to his plane factories, where he introduced her to his scientists and showed her how the planes were built. She bought books on birds and books on fish and learned all about the fastest of each kind. She combined the wings of the fastest bird and the fins of the fastest fish and took them into a sketch of a new wing for Hughes' planes. He called her a genius. She once said that improving things came naturally to her. She created an upgraded stoplight and invented a tablet that dissolved in water to create a soda similar to cola. I want to know what happened with that. Like, part of me thinks it probably had something in it that we've since decided we shouldn't be ingesting. But maybe it was like an Alka-Seltzer tablet, like how you plop, plop, fizz, fizz, but then it made like Coca-Cola. I want to look into that. I'm kind of curious whatever happened to that invention. Collaborating with composer and inventor George Antheil, Lamar developed the concept of frequency hopping spread spectrum technology, or FHSS technology. The system involved rapidly switching radio frequencies to prevent interception by enemies, a technique that, I don't know that word, and now it's a technique similar to the behavior of player pianos synchronized with perforated rolls. So if you've ever seen those player pianos, and then in the middle, it's like a cylinder, and it has little perforations in it, and that's what makes the keys go. This is like a similar kind of technology. So their invention, patented in 1942, aimed to address the vulnerability of radio-controlled torpedoes to jamming during World War II. The Navy turned it down, so she used her fame instead to sell war bonds. She was so happy in her new country that she became a U.S. citizen in 1953. Her patent expired before she was able to earn a penny from it, but the invention laid the groundwork for numerous modern technologies, including, this is what I was shocked because I had no idea, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and GPS. So even though she didn't invent those things, what she did invent were the first steps heading in that direction. So I think that's pretty freaking cool. It was only in her later years that she received recognition for her pioneering work. In 1997, Lamar and Antheil were honored with the Electronic Frontier Foundation Pioneer Award, acknowledging their contribution to the field of technology. Lamar also became the first woman to receive the Invention Convention's Bobby Nass Spirit of Achievement Award. Although she died in 2000, Lamar was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame for the development of her frequency hopping technology in 2014. She's been dubbed the mother of Wi-Fi. And I love this story because it illustrates how being attractive and being intelligent are not mutually exclusive. Like, so many times, especially back then, I think the Hollywood actresses and all, like, you would see somebody and just assume that she didn't have a brain in her head. And a lot of women had to play that up, like the ditzy blonde stereotype, or, not that she was blonde, but, it's kind of cool that she could be both openly and proudly. And, you know, even though it took them to the end of her life to give her the recognition for it, she did get the recognition for her brain as well as her acting ability. So I think that's pretty cool that she could enjoy both, because why not? If that's what you got, that's awesome. So that was Hedy Lamarr. I hope if there was something specific that somebody wanted me to share about her that I missed, please put it in the comments. You know, like, let's all learn. It's really good to recognize strong people who have contributed to us all as a whole. So I'm very happy to learn even more. Please share. And that is the end of our National Women's History Month for 2024. I fully plan on still doing this next year, so I will work on my people for next March, but I hope you've enjoyed this segment. And we are going to move on to stripper cinema, stripper cinema. Okay. This one was totally a result of my Googling movies that had to do with dancers. I had never heard of this one before. And it's called Dancing at the Blue Iguana. So it was directed by Michael Radford, written by Michael Radford and David Linter, produced by, you guessed it, Michael Radford, and also Sheila Kenny, Damian Jones, Graham Broadbent, Etchy Stroh, Ram Bergman, and Dana Lustig. So it was released September 14th, 2000. And the thing that jumped off of the computer at me was the box office earnings were $67,913. That's probably not enough to pay one of the actors that was in this movie. But I'm not, like, I actually enjoyed it. I'm going to be honest. Like, it was, let me tell you what it's about. So the thing that drew it to me was the cast, because it has Daryl Hannah, which immediately jumped out at me. I've loved her in several movies. It has Sandra Oh. It has Jennifer Tilly, Sheila Kelly, and then other actors that I was just introduced to with this film. So the movie was made without a script, which is really unique. And a lot of people like kind of criticized it for that. But what happened was the actors were told the name of the film and that it took place in a strip club. And then they developed their characters, their storylines, and their dialogue in a series of improvisational workshops. So this movie, there was no script. And then everyone involved in it worked on it to create this. So I think that's really cool. I've never heard of another movie like that. So the characters include Jasmine. She's played by Sandra Oh. And she's a really sensual dancer, but she doesn't take any crap. In one of the opening dressing room scenes, she goes flying across the dressing room to attack Joe, the other dancer, and the two of them start brawling on the floor. It was pretty comical, and I was having flashbacks, honestly. But, you know, then they have to get up because one of them had to get on stage, and it was like, break it up, go do your job, you know. But it comes out in the movie that she also writes poetry and attends a poetry reading weekly, though she's too shy to read her work. So it was kind of cool to see the two sides of Jasmine, the confident dancer and then the shy poet. Then Joe, who I mentioned that she gets in a brawl with, finds out that she's pregnant, and she's pissed off and taking her rage out on everyone, especially the clients in her dominatrix side hustle. Angel, who's played by Daryl Hannah, is the beautiful but very childlike dancer who wants to have a baby or foster a child to care for. Her messy life, mixed with her naivete, for example, she found Joe's pregnancy test on the floor in the club and is convinced that she's pregnant because it has a plus sign, and she may have dribbled on it while she was squatting over the toilet. So forget the fact that she hasn't had sex in 8 months. She really thinks that she's pregnant because she found this pregnancy test on the floor, which, ew, why would you pick that? Anyway, Jessie's the youngest girl, and she just wants to be liked by everyone. She winds up with a guy who is going to pretend to be Angel's fiance so she could foster the child. But then he winds up beating Jessie, so she winds up moving in with Joe. So everybody's connected, you know, like they're all kind of moving in the same circles in and out of work. Stormy, who's played by Sheila Kelly, has a brother who keeps reaching out to her, but she doesn't want to see him. It's later revealed that they've been having an incestuous relationship that he's cut off because he's getting married. Did not see that one coming. So a cool side note about Sheila Kelly, who plays Stormy, she became a fan of pole dancing because of the movie and built a national chain of exercise studios around her, quote, S Factor exercise method, including her book, S Factor, Strip Workouts for Every Woman. She has DVDs and an inspirational monthly editorial at the S Factor website. So you can check out her exercise routines if you are interested. I have a friend that actually told me that she took a pole class of hers. So I think that's pretty cool. So basically all of those characters are highlighted throughout the movie, and it's their life inside working at the club and then the struggles that they face in their real life. And like some of the time, like Jasmine was hanging out with Angel. So there are a couple of them that hang out outside of work, but not everybody. It's not like a stripper buddy movie, where we all go to work together and then we're all hanging out together. So then, like Eddie's the club manager, and they kind of show his angle on what it's like running the club and how he has to deal with the girl drama. But also, like, there's a couple more peripheral characters, and one is an old man. He's Angel's regular, and he uses his deceased wife's opera glasses to stare at the girls, which I just thought was like an odd thing. But like I said, this was all born out of improvisational classes, or workshops. So maybe there was a backstory that I missed there. And through all of this, there's this Russian hitman. It doesn't have to make sense, right? It's just everything going on. He falls in love with Angel. He's sending her gifts at the club, but he never everything's anonymous because he's supposed to be killing somebody who might be the old man with the opera glasses. I'm not sure. So we're all following these women and checking out their stories, and the music that they're playing in the club, it was so slow and like so quiet. And I didn't understand that part. I don't know why they chose the music that they did. The soundtrack lists a whole bunch of music, but a lot of it is not anything that I personally know. And it was just so quiet. Like, it wasn't even lunchtime at the titty bars where I worked music. But I'm kind of curious to see if I can find out why that was chosen. Maybe just to give that somber mood. That's all I can picture. But everybody's excited because they're going to have, well, everybody meaning Eddie and, the managerial people are excited because they're going to have a special guest porno star, to come and dance as like a special event. And we used to have them at work. Like, that wasn't anything out of the ordinary. You would have the special porn star. What's the word I'm thinking of when you're doing that? You're doing, you know what I mean? Special event. So her name was Nico. And she comes in, and I look at Dave. I'm like, she looks so familiar. Who is that? And like, she's in the dressing room, and they're like, you're in Jasmine's seat. You got to move. Like they're bossing her around or whatever. And then she gets out on stage, and she makes a face. And I turned to Dave, and I'm like, it's Pam from True Blood. I was so excited. I love the character Pam in True Blood. And when I saw that it was Kristen, what's her last name? I don't know her last name. Darn it. Can't think of her name right now. But Kristen Bauer. I was so excited because I love her in True Blood, and like seeing her in something else was like really cool. I know she was in like a TV show recently where she was Maleficent, and I can't think of the name of the TV show. But yeah, she was like really cool. So that was exciting. And thing is, like, this movie, one of the reviews that I saw was like, if you like your movies to end up tightly, wrapped in a nice, neat little bow at the end, this is not your movie. Because in my notes, I wish I had put a more detailed meaning of what I meant, because it just says ending. What? And I don't even remember what I meant by that, but it was just like, it just kind of ended, And so in that aspect, I was kind of like, okay, because I do like a good wrap up at the end, not that it has to be a happy wrap up, but at least like some sort of conclusion that makes sense. So this was kind of open ended. You can draw your own conclusions, I guess. So let's get to my rating for this. So Dancing at the Blue Iguana, I'm giving points off for one of the opening scenes. People are moving money back and forth in their mouths. Ew, 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 ew. In my book, I state this: money is dirty. We all learned this in kindergarten. Keep it out of your mouth. And I used to tell customers when they'd stick $1 in their mouth that I would hope that it had been in a male stripper's ass crack of his G-string, and now it's in your mouth, because that's what you get. Dirty. Okay. That was number one. Number two, like everybody, all the time, smoking constantly. Like, and I used to smoke. I get it. But it was almost distracting because it was so excessive, like a constant thing. And it was funny because Angel, Daryl Hannah's character, was always out back smoking. That's where the Russian hitman was like kind of spying on her. But everybody else was smoking in the club. So why did she even bother going out back in like her dance outfit, which would have never happened in a million trillion years? But I just thought it was funny. I'm just like, why is everybody chain smoking? It was just bizarre. I mentioned the music in the first half. The music was slow and quiet. It would have been nap time in the club. And then something that just my personal pet peeve, they would show long sections of the girls dancing, and it was like a tight shot on like a face and a shoulder. Like, if she's dancing, I want to see her body dancing, not, like occasional like close up. Yeah, absolutely. But like 35, 45 seconds of just that was kind of like, interesting. Again, personal pet peeve. And another thing that just struck out to me is they would bring the guys back into the couch dance room and start dancing and then discuss money. That's not how it works. You get your money up front, or you might not get your money. So that's just my little, if you ever decide that you want to start dancing, get your money up front. They'll tell you they get the money. And then when the dance is done, they don't got the money. And then you're screwed. So always get your money up front. So we're going to end on a high note with my points 4. And those are, they actually were like dancing, and they had like normal people bodies, like all different shapes and sizes, but, like it wasn't just cookie cutter. Everybody, like it was a lot of good representation. And I was laughing. There were a lot of tricks, but I was like, oh, everybody's wearing vinyl boots because that's like a good cheat to stick to the pole. I tried that once. I was probably dancing just a couple of years at that point. And somebody told me, well, if you get vinyl boots, then you don't have to like mess up your leg skin, because it, once you slide down the pole, it takes the first couple layers of your epidermis off. So I'm like, cool, I will get me some vinyl boots. And I climbed up the pole and I got stuck, and I couldn't get unstuck because my vinyl boots were too stuck. And I kind of had to slide out of my boots to get off the pole. It was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, that's a little trick, just so you know. Like I said, beautiful women of all ages. And some critics panned this movie because they were saying the actors were too old because they were in their 30s and 40s. And I'm sure there's clubs that have an age limit and don't want anybody over, 30 or whatever. But every club that I danced in, there were girls that were, turned 18 that day. And then there were like 60-year-old women and everybody in between. So to me, again, like we were talking about with the gender equality, if you are qualified for the job, you have a beautiful body and you can dance, who cares how old it is? Like people are attracted to all shapes and sizes. So I'm glad that they were represented. I liked that. I don't know why this is a points for. Like when it happened, it was kind of like, of course, So as I mentioned, Jasmine, the one character, writes poetry, and the guy that owns the bookstore where they're doing the poetry reading convinces her to read her poems. And of course, they fall in love, and they're dating. Well, he tells her that he doesn't care that she dances. So then he comes in and he sees her dancing, and then he cares. And to me, like, I don't know why that's in my points for, because that's crap. And like she danced to, I think it's called Porcelain by Moby, and it's about saying goodbye, like to illustrate that she knew he was going to ditch her when that happened. Again, another slow song, but maybe I put it in there for like realism because that does happen. And maybe you get caught up in the moment and you say you don't care, and then the jealousy kicks in. I don't know, but that's okay. I put it in there for something. Second half of the movie, to like do a 180 with the music, they played Battle Flag by Low Fidelity All Stars and Lips Like Sugar by Echo and the Bunnymen, both songs that I used to dance to. And they are both on my companion playlist that you get for free if you buy a personalized signed copy of my paperback at learnedingogo.com. So shout out that they used two songs that I used to dance to. And then my final points for is Pam from True Blood. I love her. If you ever saw True Blood, when she's like, blah, 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 vampire emergency, blah, like that's my favorite line from the entire series. So overall, I will give this 3.5 thongs because I did really like it, especially going in knowing nothing about it. And, you know, is it like a stellar, amazing movie? No, but it was interesting and it had its moments, and it was cool to see people that I am familiar with from other movies in a completely different role. So all in all, I liked it. And I streamed it on Tubi for free. So if you want to check it out, it has commercials because it's free, but it's on there. And it's rated R, of course, because there is nudity and lots of smoking. But all in all, I enjoyed that. So I am going to wrap up this week's episode. Can't believe we're on episode 11 already. And it's actually like going halfway between a mini-sode and an episode. So is that a mini Maxi-Sode? I don't know. But I'm glad that I don't have it on mute anymore because I would drop kick my laptop if I looked down and saw that I needed to unmute it again. But I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast. I'm having a lot of fun making it. And I'm trying to come up with a good assignment. I had one and it fell out of my ear because I didn't write it down. So that's another thing. Like once you start getting into your late 40s, write everything down because you think you're going to remember it. Like my ending. What? I have no freaking idea what I was talking about there. Yeah. So, okay. For this week's assignment, if you were ever to become an exotic dancer, what song would you like to be, quote unquote, your song? Like what song would you enjoy dancing to the most? So you can answer that in this week's assignment. I will put it on my social media, which is at LearnedInGoGo on both Instagram and Facebook. In the show notes will be my link tree. So you can click on that. That has all the links to all the things to buy my book, to join my email mailing list, which I do need to send out an email. I haven't in a couple weeks, but that being said, I really try not to spam you. Usually once a week would be tops, unless there's something super duper special. Like once a week is my schedule. I hope to one day be responsible enough to pull off. But yeah, please join that. And please make sure that you follow the podcast, that you subscribe, you review. If you could give it a 5-star rating, you would make my day. And I hope you guys all take care, and I will see you next week. Just remember to take on any challenge in your life head on, because when you go for the ostrich syndrome and you stick your head in the sand, you think you're hiding from everything, but the rest of the world just sees the big ass. Love you.